Hello everyone, today we're going to be smelling for the first time Bois Vanille by Serge Lutens. I'm in a vanilla mood and it all boils down to Habit Rouge Parfum. I think Habit Rouge Parfum has the best vanilla I've smelled in a while, and that one is most obvious in its dry down. So because of that, I said, okay, let's try Bois Vanille. And I mentioned this before, and ever since Guerlain has a fragrance house inspired me so much as Serge Lutens. Whenever I smell something new from this house, it's always a pleasure. So I've never smelled Bois Vanille. I don't know what this smells like. It's going to be a first. It was a blind buy, and as usual, I will have to, come on, get out. I will have to construct, in typical Serge Lutens fashion, this is a 50 milliliter, I will have to construct my fragrance bottle myself. I like this style of bottle because I think you can also buy the refills, right? And I think that's very appropriate in this day and age. Now, let's see how Bois Vanille smells, and let's see just how vanillic or characteristic of vanilla it actually is. Let's try it on the scent strip also. So the opening is quite it's very nice, but it's very it's a duality of things. So the very first initial blast was chocolatey, sweet vanilla, right? It wasn't your typical vanilla, but very, very white chocolate kind of scent. At the first time, it went through a very piney, resinous, olibanum, very sharp, almost camphorous type of smell. That's why I said it was a very strange but very beautiful duality. Now, from the depth of the fragrance, I can sense a bit of musk, and it's a floral perfumey, very, very perfumey type of musk, which sort of clashes quite weirdly with the composition. However, the fragrance does still have green facets, which I think saves it. It's very interesting. I don't think I can liken it to anything I've smelled before, but ever so clearly I can sense the beginning of a honey accord. You know, because it's Serge Lutens. As a friend of mine said, there's always a bit of honey in Serge Lutens. And this is, I mean, it's quite lovely, but this is called Bois Vanille, and this is gradually becoming woodier, you know, by the second. Oh God, there's a quality to this fragrance. I think it may be bit heavy on the oak moss, or I'm not sure, but there's a woody, very perfumey, almost chypre-like quality to this, because it's a metallic facet that's very interesting, quite unique, this combination, but it's not like anything I've ever smelled. At least this opening. I don't know what this will turn into, and as always, this is the downside of first impressions videos. You could never truly get to the dry down because there isn't enough time, but at least we get some first steps towards its trajectory, which is always nice, and I think quite useful. I should have to look on the notes, because as it is, it's very, very interesting, but I can't make light of what I'm smelling. It's a woody vanilla with chypre elements, and the very first signs of a floral honey, but my brain is still looking for that initial white chocolate blast, which was so gourmand and so gorgeous, which is still kind of there, but you really have to squint for it. It's very interesting because it's something I truly like. This is not gourmand by any means, and the vanilla is quite dark, I should say. There's also something very, very mushroomy to this. This is why my initial impression was something oak mossy like a chypre. My god, this is interesting. And the progression was very sudden, very fast. It was like chocolatey, camphorous, musky, and then woody, sort of mushroomy forest floor chypre. Again, I do have to admire this architecture, right? Now let's look on the notes finally. So the notes cite, on Fragrantica mind you, they cite vanilla, coconut milk, maybe, beeswax definitely, black licorice, I don't know how that's different from, any other type of licorice. Is it the licorice? There's definitely something bittersweet here. But I wouldn't necessarily classify it as licorice. I would still classify it as maybe some very mushroomy lichen type of smell. It's definitely not something terribly edible. And sandalwood, that's right. The sandalwood, now that I see it here, it's the sandalwood that gave me that impression of something musky green, because it does remind me a bit of Santal Majuscule. There's something of the acidity of Santal Majuscule. I think they're quite similar, and there's also a bit of that grainy, almost bread-like, woody, musky, grainy. And also now I detect something very deep and dark that can only be benzoin, but it's a very beautiful type of benzoin, coniferous type of benzoin, coniferous, camphorous, and oh my god, it's darkening. This is a gorgeous scent. This is the moment where it's got me. It's smoky and it's burnt. My goodness, this is gorgeous. Back to the notes, then you've got tonka, benzoin, guaiac wood, and musk. And again, I have to say, these notes are probably right. I think they're very well selected, because to my nose, it's sandalwood, guaiac, benzoin, vanilla, beeswax, and musk. I'm not sure about licorice, I'm not sure about tonka, not sure about the coconut milk. But there's also that mystery with the mushroomy, element, and forest floor, and the metallic feeling, like it's almost a chypre. It is gorgeous. I like this one. A successful blind buy. I mean, it's Serge Lutens. I would have loved it anyway. And it's interesting because it does feel like it's a study on vanilla, because just like in Habit Rouge Parfum, the dry down is purely vanilla. And what I mean by that, well, vanilla is very complex, Vanilla is, when it's very concentrated, it's very woody, it's very dark. There's not a lot of eugenol in this. There isn't that clovey smell, which is interesting. Either I can't detect it, or it's hidden by something else. In Habit Rouge Parfum, the smell of cloves in the dry down is quite obvious, but then again, so is the leathery aspect of vanilla and the smoky guaiac aspect. Here, it's just the smoky guaiac without it being terribly leathery, but it's definitely vanillic, right? It's definitely a study on vanilla. But it's so multifaceted. I get whiffs of so many things. And at times, it alternates between that mushroomy forest floor and the deep, smoky guaiac. Oh my god, I'm gonna gush over this for so long. And it feels like a rather, not necessarily a very strong scent, but something that I feel like this is something that would accompany me. It's very oily on the skin. It's something that would accompany me for the duration of the entire day, It's just like Santal Majuscule, which is not terribly projecting, but it's something that's always there. I think it's quite similar. I think it's in the same family as Santal Majuscule, only built with more of a study on vanilla than in sandalwood, but it's definitely built with the help of sandalwood. That musk that I felt right in the beginning there, it's not very present now, which is very nice, because there were these floral elements at the beginning, which I don't detect anymore. It's like a very, very woody, dark vanilla. And you couldn't tell this just by looking at the bottle. When I was looking at the, pictures of the bottle, just by the color of the liquid, I was expecting something more in terms of floral vanilla, something fresher. This is not cloying at all. That honey element, while there, it's not overpowering. It's very, very well done. It's not as sticky sweet as the honey in Fils de Joie. I'm glad I know a bit of Serge Lutens, that I can juggle between them. There's so many more that I need to smell, but I'm glad I have a small, base of fragrances from Serge Lutens that some of them I own, some of them I've only smelled, that I can still reference them. With the exception of the florals, the mushroom musky parts are here, and this is why it's like smelling almost a gardenia effect with smoky guaiac and deep, dark vanilla. This is gorgeous. I love this so much. I will keep you posted if this changes drastically and begins, smelling like something else. As it is, I love it. I think it's very aptly named Bois Vanille. It's a very woody vanilla. I love this. If you've got any other questions, do let me know in the comments. And until next time, remember, fragrance creates memories, and may yours be happy.